Let's now head back to our city center studios where we have engineer Collins Juma on standby. He is talking to us about the upcoming elections for the Institute of Engineers of Kenya, IEK. I hope you can hear me now, Engineer Juma. Many thanks for staying on with us. Now, it was just in 2016 when President Uhuru Kenyatta signed into law the Engineering Technology Bill, which allowed for the regulation and practice and standards of engineers in the country. How has that since helped the profession of engineering?
The bill that was signed in 2016 is for the technicians. The engineers operate under the 2011 Engineers Act, which has provided for on how engineering is practiced in this country. So we have to separate those two bills. The one that guides the engineers is the 2011 Engineers Act,
which will be conducting its elections. But perhaps to clarify this for us, is it true that the very same leaders under the Institute of Engineers of Kenya are the same leaders for the Engineering Board of Kenya?
That may not be true, but the Institution of Engineers of Kenya is represented at the EBK, Engineers Board of Kenya, as per their act. So you might have some few faces who are at IEK and they are also at EBK.
So we're discussing earlier on the regulations that have come out in terms of supporting the engineering profession, and there's quite, robust regulations, but weak enforcement has been a complaint that has come out of this. How do you think this can change?
Yeah, and that's why we are holding these elections, because the Institution of Engineers of Kenya is supposed to ensure that the engineers operate and practice as per the regulation that have been put in place by the regulator. This is what we are saying, that the representation of the members is done by the council that is elected by the members, and the council is supposed to spearhead and ensure adherence and compliance of these regulations. I know when you talk of implementation, we've had some incidences where the engineers' practice or the practice of engineering has come to question. And I know what you have in mind is our buildings which fall apart, and the questions come, where were the engineers? The Institution of Engineers of Kenya is supposed to come up and say, were there engineers involved in this? And if there were engineers involved in this kind of facility construction, did they follow the laid down design procedures? If the engineers were not there, then the question also comes why the engineers were not involved in that particular construction development.
It's great that you bring that up just as we wind up, because there is the Occupational Safety and Health Act 2017, which is basically health and safety aspects that are to be observed by engineers in the country. And just like you've brought it up, I mean, in the past 2 years, we've seen a lot of cases of collapsed buildings. It is questionable to say that not even one of these buildings had engineers on site. How well is the Safety and Health Act being followed by engineers?
That is the question that we are talking about, compliance and insurance to the ensuring that regulation, laid down regulation, are adhered to. And this is where the engineer comes in. So if the engineer is not appointed in that particular project, then it becomes very difficult for the engineer or the engineering profession to defend that particular project. The institution is supposed to give their visibility and have a dialogue with the government and also other implementers of this regulation, like you mentioned, the OSHA, so that we ensure that every project that is being undertaken in this country is being undertaken in accordance with the laid down design procedure for that particular project.
Finally, engineer, when will these elections be taking place? Who will be voting in this election?
As I'm talking now, the elections opened at 6 o'clock and we are doing electronic voting. And who is voting? The members of IEK That's the corporate members and the associates are eligible to vote. And the vote will close at 6 p.m. in the evening. So you can vote from wherever you are, whether you are in Australia or in the US, you vote through your phone or through your laptop or computer.
All right, many thanks. That is Engineer Collins Juma. He is live for us from our city center studios. They're giving us an update on the ongoing elections for the Institute of Engineers of Kenya, one that will